the people's power. It's no kind of power. Take it from the greedy. Give it all to the needy. We got the free breakfast program. Feed hungry children. We got the free clothing drive. Clothe the needy people. We got the free health clinic. Cure the sick people. And there ain't enough pigs in this whole wide world to stop the Black Panther Party from serving the people. Now, brother Fred Hampton was a dedicated Panther. He was the deputy chairman of the Illinois chapter. He was shot through the head while sleeping in his bed. Cause he loved the people and he served his people. And power, 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 power to the people.
I think maybe it'd be interesting to find out, since we're doing thing on Chicago, exactly, what some of the specific problems are right now in Chicago. We know about a little bit about the lunch thing and about the health clinic, how that was shut down, but especially you, Fred, because you're the leader, you're the chairman here for Illinois, is that? Yeah. And so maybe if you could just wrap some of the stuff that you think is really specific, that especially to Chicago, and then in general, whatever. But maybe we could start with that.
We got a lot of problems in Chicago. Our Deputy Minister of Defense, Bobby Rush, is out on 2 appeals for gun charges. I'm out on an appeal for trumped-up robbery, and we got around 9 people still locked up in jail. We have 2 people still locked up in jail from a July 30th shootout we had with the pigs, and we have around 4 or 5 more still locked up from the last ambush at the office on a week ago Saturday, I think. And these people are people that work hard for the party here in Chicago, and the main thing that we believe caused the vamp on the office leads right back to what you were talking about, the chairman being in Chicago. People came into the office and piled up the supplies for the health clinic and burned it in the middle of the floor. This showed some type of megalomaniac tendencies that these people have, because they're obsessed and they're crazy with power. They came into there and they ripped the brothers out of the office and then beat them brutally when they got them outside the office. The brothers did not shoot at them like they claimed they did. They said that somebody in the block was sniping, and these drunkard bastards went up in the office and burned the whole office down because some people were shooting at them. The main issue is that the chairman's down there at the federal building, and the chairman's being tried illegally. We don't think that old people have a right to try the chairman. We don't think that this judge, he's too old, he's too outdated, he's too outmoded, he's too decrepit, he's too senile, he's too stupid, and he's too racist, and he's too imperialistic to try a chairman. He's got too many fucked up traits. And so the issue now is that we organize the people around some of these bad traits, some of these illegal traits that this man has, some of these traits that would not allow him, whether he wanted to or not, to be able to give our chairman a fair trial. You see, when you get that old, you don't do what you want to do. You do what you have to do, And even if he did get some type of good feeling about wanting to try a chairman in the proper manner, it wouldn't even be possible. He doesn't have enough strength in his body to try to withstand any type of attacks that the press would launch on him if he gave our chairman a fair trial. We want him out of the courtroom, and we want our chairman released, because the chairman is not a criminal. As a matter of fact, he's just the opposite of a criminal. He's just as far from being a criminal as that judge is from being a teenager, because he's the father of our Breakfast for Children program, and he's the father of our free health clinic. And this is not, if this is criminal, then we all want to be criminal. If it's criminal to feed children that are hungry, if it's criminal to start a program that says that the only prerequisite that people have to involve themselves in this program is to be hungry, then we're going to continue to be criminal. If it's criminal to say that the only prerequisite that people have when they want free medical aid is that they be sick, then we intend to continue to be criminal. And because we think that this shows the contradictions of that slaughterhouse down there, what they call the Cook County Hospital, where they take people and experiment on them, and they got these gaping apes down there that are waiting to launch some type of physical attack on people and rip them off, take intestines, and anything else that they need for some of their relatives. And we know about all these maniacs because this Dr. Bernard was a maniac. We call him the fastest knife in the West. And he's ripping black people off, and all these fascists ripping black people off. It's a racist tendency. These people don't have any right to determine when black people are going to die. They don't have any right to be able to lay a black man down and say that we think he was close enough to death that we should take his heart. Because these motherfuckers, we know where they at, and we know they want some of everything off of us. They like some of our sex organs, and they like some of everything, some of our brains and arms and everything, and we're not going to allow these motherfuckers to rip us off. But we know that with the way this fascism is going, it'll be around 3 weeks, and you won't be able to go in and get a physical checkup. Every time people go in there, they'll come out and he just died, and he had a common cold or anything, and the motherfucker, he just died, and it just happened that another person was in there who needed a heart, and we took his heart and gave him to this other man. We think there's too much racism, there's too much fascism, there's too much imperialism to allow these people to play with our lives in general and play with our chairman's life in specific. This man has no right, and this is what the people have to understand. We out here trying to educate, trying to inform, trying to organize, and trying to teach the people some revolutionary political power and have them to arm themselves. We know that once the people are armed, those people cannot be oppressed, and they cannot be repressed without any type of retaliation, and retaliation is the only thing in the world that's ever going to stop fascism. It's not a question of nonviolence or violence. The question is between resistance to this fascism or either non-existence within fascism.
Like, talking about retaliation then, when they do bust in and like shoot up your office and burn the money and do the things that have been pretty well documented, I guess, that they do, what do you do? Because you can't call the police, you know, like you can't have the pigs come in to check on the pigs, right?
You don't need to call the police. If you read the papers, you'd find that there are a whole lot of policemen that end up in the hospital, and we just found out something, you know, the people just found it out maybe. But policemen react the same way from .357 Magnums and shotguns that the people do, or anybody else. And we know how to ward these frantic fascists off, that we have to defend ourselves. We intend to defend ourselves. We've did so in the past, and we're going to do it today and the day after that and the day after that. Because only through this proper example of the self-defense and the proper example of retaliation, and by letting these people know that we move from some basic laws, that anything that goes down on oppressed people on the part of the oppressor, it should be reciprocal. And in plain proletarian workers' language, it takes two to tango. As soon as these motherfuckers go, we go.
I just, how do you go about, like, a lot of people that are outside of the black community who haven't been harassed till now, like, or even people in the black community that don't really know where the Panthers are at or haven't for a while, you know, like, even the suburban people. How do you tell them that you are defending yourselves? All they hear, you know, like they see Black Panthers, violence, just like they see maybe hippies and violence or SDS and violence, and they think that, you know, like that's all you want to do is get guns. What kind of, like, even an education program, what are the Panthers into as far as that? Black people in the ghetto don't have to be educated. I know that, but like there are people, a lot of people who should be, and maybe you could, you know, like get to those people. Are you trying?
I don't think there's anybody trying any harder and in their attempts are being any more successful than the Black Panther Party. I think that Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale should be called Professor Newton and Professor Seale, because when it comes to educators, I think that they're some of the best educators that the world has ever produced. As a matter of fact, I would go on to say, for people who think that the Black Panther Party is wrapped up in complete metaphysical bullshit about some of these other people like Mao, and we respect Mao. But I'd say that Chairman Bobby and Huey P. Newton and the Chief of Staff David Head also are the most profound Marxists in the world living today. And they're writing some of the most profound Marxist, Leninist ideas and dealing with some of the most difficult problems in difficult times under the difficult repression of the most repressive force, the most capable people of repressing a people in the world. And I think they're doing the job beautifully. We're out there every day and educating. People learn by example. I don't think anybody has an argument with that. I think that when Huey P. Newton said that people learn basically by observation and participation, I think that everybody caught on to that. So what we're saying very simply is that if they learn by observation and participation, then we need to do more acting than we need to do writing. And I think the Black Panther Party is doing that. That we didn't talk about a Breakfast for Children program, we've got one. We're not going to tell you how many kids we intend to feed in Chicago. We're feeding 3,000 to 4,000 every week already, and I don't know how many all around the country. We're not talking about beginning to think about treating people free when they need medical services. We're opening a free health clinic in the city of Chicago in less than 3 weeks. These are the type of examples that people can relate to. The Tribune or the Daily News or sometimes no other establishment press that is a tool of these fools can belittle what we're doing because the examples are right there. They're concrete. Just like the old saying goes, one picture's worth 1,000 words, and you've got to believe what you see. The programs are there. People have to see them, and the only people that don't see them are people that shut their eyes and fight knowledge. And people that fight knowledge will never be any good to the revolution anyway. But those that accept knowledge, those that are thirsty for knowledge, those that are aggressive about obtaining knowledge, or even those that are lazy about obtaining knowledge, they've got to see what the party's doing. Those that are aggressive will come and see it. Those that are not aggressive before they know it, we'll have a program right next door to their house, and they've got to see it then if they come out of the house. And if they're too lazy for that, we'll have one in their bedroom, and they got to go to bed.
I know.
Let's see, what was the other thing that
What about the Weatherman's action this last week? What are your feelings about that?
We had a lot of feelings about that. I think the first thing, that I should say, being egotistical, is that I was right. That they were a bunch of anarchistic, custoristic, muddlehead, scatterbrain fools, And we call them custoristic because they're people who lead people in the slaughter, and you can never tell them anything. We think that this type of action is criminal, We think that it was premature, and it was, and when we saw it, we thought it was on the brink of anarchism, and when we saw the plans, we thought it was on the brink of anarchism. When we saw it in action, we knew very clearly that that's what it was. It was anarchism. It was a lot of spontaneity, a lot of things that some leaders had gotten together and fronted the people off, led them into situations of premature confrontations that there's no way in the world that these people could deal with. People were locked up, astronomical bonds were set, money would have to be spent that could have been spent for revolutionaries who have been locked up, and if they were allowed to be bonded out, they would be back on the streets engaging in a constant revolutionary struggle, a day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year struggle in order to, benefit the people. But what do we have to do instead? Because of these megalomaniacs, then we have to see people that have money that would donate something to the movement, giving these people money. These people in SDS very clearly showed that they had all types of wrong tendencies, organizational chauvinism and racism and opportunism and everything, because it's opportunistic to use the Black Panther Party as the vanguard when it benefits you, but then when the Black Panther Party as the vanguard tells you that a move that you're making is ideologically, politically, and organizationally the incorrect move, and you refuse to accept that basic Marxist-Lenin theory that they give you, then that proves then that you only believe that the Black Panther Party is the vanguard when it's beneficial to you. That is the definition very clearly of an opportunist, and that's what they are. They're opportunists. We say this, that there's a difference between the vanguard and the people, whether I like it or you like it, anybody else likes it. The definition says that we are supposed to educate the people and teach them the correct way to carry out a revolutionary struggle. Now, whenever these fools get to thinking that they the vanguard, then they're out of their mind because they have to be the people. The first move to commit to prove to yourself that you understand you the people is to listen to the vanguard. They refuse to do that. They refuse all knowledge. We call them some know-it-alls who get a smattering of knowledge and move out on a premise that they think revolution is a game. We think revolution is Far from that. Revolution is a discipline, art that people have to perfect, and if they don't perfect it, then what they're doing in fact is, you know what they're doing? Weathermen and people like weathermen are setting up a situation. They're planning some counter-revolutionary. They're planning some opportunistic and some anarchistic. They're planting some individualistic and some chauvinistic and some customistic seeds in the ground now, that when these seeds come up, these seeds will have vegetation on the end of them that will frighten people. It will have horror that will horrify the masses and terror that will terrify the masses. Why? They're setting up premature confrontations by which the pigs, the reactionary ruling class, will be able to destroy the whole movement. That's kind of revolutionary, and we have to define it. We say that they were wrong and they were a bunch of muddleheads. We're going to criticize them educationally. We try to set examples and show them some discipline, educational demonstration, instead of all this hee-hawing and funny tickling and jumping up and giggling down the federal building and turning flips, because these are nothing but a bunch of acrobatic counter-revolutionaries and nothing but a bunch of fools.
You know, you're talking a lot, and I can see what you're saying about the anarchy and the whole trip about that with the SDS, and yet, like, you and the people around you seem to be, like, always in danger. You know, you could be killed as you walked out of here, because it's happened to a lot of people in the Black Panthers and all the black movements. And, like, can you be sure that your movement, are you strong enough now, you know, that are you going to go on? Is the Black Panthers, if you are killed, will the breakfast program go on just on a, you know, day-to-day type level?
Well, last year we started 3 Breakfast for Children program, and this year we gave those 3 to the people, and they're running those Breakfast for Children already.
The people are.
Right. And our whole program is geared toward educating the mass of the people, and that free health clinic that we have, the people in the community are going to run that clinic. And after a while, we're going to give them that clinic, and we're going to move on to higher levels, because we understand the difference between the vanguard and the people. We're not going to practice intellectualism. We're going to keep out there setting up some new examples, some new revolutionary programs that the people can basically relate to, because basically people are progressive and basically people are revolutionary. We're not worried about them killing anybody, because I think that, you know, they jailed Huey P. Newton, and they ran Cleve out the country, Elbridge Cleve out the country, and they jailed Bobby Seale, and we got David Head up there now, who's very capable, most capable of running the Black Panther Party, and they can just take all of them they want to. We're always going to have someone to fulfill that position, because that's the type of organization the Black Panther Party is. We don't produce buffoons, we produce leaders. And everybody in the Black Panther Party, on any type of cadre, he's becoming a leader. We can, our minister, deputy minister of health in the state of Illinois, can run the Black Panther Party, and so can anybody on this cadre. So all that they're involved in is an excursion in futility, because anybody that tries to deal with wiping out the leadership of the Black Panther Party is dealing with a time wasting. It's a futile effort to seize some type of power that can never be seized, because it's a type of flowing power, and it's a type of unending flow of this power. Every time somebody moves, we're just producing more and more people, you know. And you know how the story goes. They had a chance. Wiping out power is what's got them in the mess they're in now. Wiping out power that's what's got the Black Panther Party on their asses, you know, because they wiped out so much power. So I think they're about tired of wiping out power. They wiped out Martin Luther King, and they wiped out Malcolm X, you know what I mean? And they wiped out all these people, and these people were produced. So I think that in the near future, you'll see programs initiated by the government that they'll probably have the CIA protecting people like us. Because when they wiped out Huey P. Newton and Elbridge Cleaver popped up, I know very well that they said, we wish to God that we had have kept Huey P. Newton on the scene, because this motherfucker's out of his mind.
Right on. Shit.
There was somebody rapped earlier about going on to higher levels, and then you just said it again. That's and then you qualified it by talking about, like, no new programs, but, like, what about higher levels? What are higher levels right now? What would you like to move on to besides, like, what you're doing now?
I think the first thing we want to move on, we're moving on it already, is the decentralization of the police. You know, we need to, you see, a lot of people, you know, one basic hang-up we have with some people in our 10-point program is they say, I just can't understand why y'all want all those people let out of jail, you know. And some of them are crazy and some of them are rape people. You know, so what we want to do is we want to lock up some of these so-called insane people on the streets and get them out of the community, you know. And a lot of people make jokes. They say, well, every time you go by a mental institution, they're hollering at you saying you're crazy. I don't know if that's, you know, incorrect on the part of those people, you know. I think that, see, it's a difference, you know what I mean? You have priorities. If you had a maniac that had to be loose, I'd rather have him on the streets, walking around every day, than running the country. Now, we had a maniac with Lyndon Baines Johnson who started all kind of wars, you know what I mean? That's a megalomaniac. And you can look, Webster says that. I didn't write the dictionary. That's a megalomaniac. They pronounce it megalomaniac, but I like to say megalomaniac. Now, then you got Nixon now, who's a fascist, megalomaniac himself. He's on the streets loose. Attorney Mitchell is a maniac. This pig who was stealing all those guns is a maniac. All these maniacs, but look what they're doing. They control the destinies of people's lives. So let's let some of these small time maniacs out in order to lock up some of the big time maniacs, you know. And so we're not worried about any of that. We talking about, we said move to a high level. We're moving to a level whereby the people are going to take over control of their destiny. They're going to take over control of their community. And the first way in doing this is dealing with the most integral part of the fascist three-way oppression. We say demagogic lying politicians and avaricious greedy businessmen, and we say fascist pig cops. But the one that's most evident, the one that's closest, the one that's more clear, the one that's more defined in the black community is those fascist pig cops. So what we are saying is, if the people can deal with these fools, then we would have taken a revolutionary step. A revolutionary leap, I should say. So that's the program that we think is going to move things to a high level. It's going to raise some contradictions. It's going to cause some antagonistic contradictions. We're prepared to deal with them, and we think the people are prepared to deal with them. They like to say that our people are not armed, but we're not worried about that. And if you don't think they're armed, go down to Presbyterian St. Luke and ask all them pigs laying up there that I don't know what happened to them, you know. If they were shot with BB guns or slingshots or what. But it's a whole lot of them in the hospital. You ought to go down there and talk to them. And I talked to one today, and he verified what I've been saying for years. He said the black community is armed, and they're tired of us pigs.
What are your feelings about this trial, and what's the significance for the black community?
The only thing I see that the trial is going to be significant in is that it gives people a chance to organize around fascism before it wipes us out. You know, I don't think that we should get into too much of a habit of calling this a trial. It's nothing but a hecatomb, you know. There's no sense in, you know, using words that we're not supposed to be using, you know. We know better than that. We wouldn't call this bottle here a cup because that's just not what it is. It might be close to that. Now, they do have a jury. They're holding this bullshit in a courtroom, but that doesn't make it a trial, if you understand what I'm saying. You see, just because people drive cars, if you put a monkey in a car and he's driving a car, that doesn't mean that he's people, does it? That means he's just a monkey in a people's car. And that's all that shit is just some bullshit in the people's courtroom, and that's what we're going to move to a level to get that shit out of the courtroom because it's improper, it's irregular, it's illegal, it's ill-timed, it's uncouth, it's every bad thing that a person could think of. Now, anybody knows that, you see, what they should do is go in there and reestablish and rearrange the whole thing because we know very well that the main objective is locking up our chairman. You know, we think that Hoffman, the first move that should be made is Hoffman should be tried and to see whether or not he's mentally capable of trying anybody. You see, people don't get this old, you know yourself that if a person was that old and if he had a job in a laundromat, just getting soap and water for people, that they would want to investigate him. You know how after every now and then, when you get so old, they give you a new driver's license test. He needs to be tried again to see if he still has common sense. And I think, you know what I mean, I think that I could be, in that case, what they call him, no, they call him a professional witness, expert witness, that's what they call him. I could be an expert witness in that case, and Chairman Bobby could be an expert witness, because we have facts to prove